Hey guys, I am Dr. April Lynch coming to you today from Bluegrass Veterinary Hospital, where we are in tune with your pet. Recently, someone referred to me as the Gen X vet, and I think that's hilarious. It fits me so well because I'm definitely a Gen X girl. So let's go with that and see if it works, right? All right. Another rendition of Mythbusters Veterinary Edition, right? Let's see what we've got today. This is a myth. Do you guys know this one? 1 year in your dog's life is equivalent to 7 human years. That is a myth. So this is not really lore or any kind of old wives' tale. It was really a very neat idea that someone came up with at some point, but basically it's to illustrate that our pets age so much faster than we do. So instead of thinking my dog is 2 years old, then people would think, oh, my dog is more like a teenager or, an adolescent. And it was helpful in predicting, when my pet might need senior care, when my pet might need to be spayed or neutered. However, that rule doesn't really hold true, and so the newer thinking, which I'm going to explain to you, is just so much more helpful, and it kind of can be broken down into small, medium, and large breed of dogs. I'm going to even share with you a chart that you guys can use at home to calculate your dog's age, and I'll tell you in a moment why that's important if you don't already know. Fact: dogs in particular age much faster than we do in their first 2 years. So in general, by the equation, the new equation that we're going to go with, by the age of 2, we think that most dogs are more like 24 years in human terms rather than the 14 that we talked about previously thought. And let me explain why. In the first year, there's such a rapid progression that it's more like 15 years. So we want to think about, in general, most dogs over the course of their first year of life are going all the way from baby all the way to teenager. And I think if you've owned pets before, that makes sense, right? They go through puberty, they do all of that. It's a big first year, right? Then the second year is equivalent to about 9 years in human terms. So by the age of 2, that's where we get our number 24. Are you with me? This is really cool stuff, right? Fact: size and breed matter significantly when it comes to aging. Obviously, small pets live longer. The giant breeds of dogs have a much shorter lifespan. So as we think about that and we put this into our equation, the first 2 years will be similar across the board. And then from there, as we look at our chart, it's broken down into small, medium, and large breed of dogs. In general, the smaller breeds live longer and age slower, if you think about it that way. The average lifespan for a Great Dane might only be 8 years in general. Now, obviously, there's outliers. There's some that only live to 5 or 6, and there's some that may live to 10 or 11. But in general, think about 8 years for those. And those are considered giant breeds versus a Lhasa Apso. Okay, those are shaggy little terrier types dogs, super cute. And the average lifespan for those guys is more like 14 or 15 years on average. So significant difference, right? Fact: under this new system of calculations, it's so much more accurate and beneficial, and also breaks down the pets into their sizes so we can get a good idea about our pet's age. Why is this important? Let's think about this for a moment. I need to know the timing of so many things. When should my puppy go to obedience school? Well, if you wait till your puppy is a year old and your puppy is about 15 years in a human terms, would you want to correct behavioral problems in a teenager, or do you want to get those while they're much younger? About spaying and neutering. They come into puberty a lot of times at as early as 5 or 6 months of age, depending upon how precocious the particular animal is. But definitely as early as 6 months of age, we can see them coming into heat, and you don't want to wait. With the exception of some of the larger breeds of dogs where we've talked about delaying their spay until they're full grown, in general, you don't want to wait until the first heat cycle. So waiting until a year of age or longer is not ideal. So all of these things, thinking about when your pet is senior, when they might need to change the diet, all of these things are important. And we need to know what age your pet is roughly and what stage of life so that we can make good medical decisions for them, right? So let's look at this chart together. It's really interesting. And again, the rule is going to hold. The first 2 years is going to start everybody out at the age of 24 because there's a lot of generalities that hold true regardless of size. From there, according to the chart and the newer information, your pet may add 4 years or 6 years, depending on whether it's a small, medium, or large breed of dog. And if you look at the chart, it will help you kind of determine that based on their weight, which is just a generality. So my dog, Scout, who's been in a lot of our videos, okay, so when I calculated his age, he is around 40 years of age in human terms, which was kind of interesting to me because I like to think of him, I think of him as so much younger than that, maybe in his 20s or 30s. So he's very active. We talked about the fact that he needs to lose a little weight, and maybe that's why he's middle-aged now. So but he's about 40 years of age, and that was just very interesting to me because I always think of him as being younger. He's very energetic. And again, that's why this information can be so helpful. Maybe it gives us some insight into what's going on with our pet and helps us make better decisions about their care and their feeding. Some of the decisions that you might need to make based on your pet's stage of life would be when to switch from puppy to adult food. And a lot of people, I think, do this maybe a little bit too late, and then we start to see them get a little bit chunky, especially after that spay and neuter, which we've talked about before, is not because they're spayed and neuter, but because their metabolism has shifted. So we as owners need to be in tune with this and thinking about, okay, my dog is now, 12, 13 years old. They don't need to be eating puppy food. So this information, this chart that we're looking at here can really help us. Now we're no longer thinking about puppy, adolescent, fast growth stage. Now we're leveling out and we want to switch to an adult food. And again, that's going to depend on, your breed and the recommendations that your veterinarian may have, but this is helpful information. Or maybe your pet is a senior. There's so many different recommendations for feeding and for supplementations for our senior pets. Maybe they need joint supplements. Maybe they need modification of your home to accommodate them because they have arthritis and stiff joints and they need soft bedding and a ramp to get up on the furniture. Or they need to eat a senior food which is much lower in calories and protein and higher in fiber. These are all really important things. We got to think about these things as we see our pets getting into their senior years, which it depends on how big your pet is, but generally around 8 to 10 years of age, we think about these guys, unless you're a giant breed and then you would be considered geriatric at that point. Another thing that I would encourage you to think about with senior pets, just like at the beginning of life when they go in several times as a puppy or kitten for vaccines and deworming and just to make sure that they're healthy, as we get older, as your pet gets older, they need to go in more frequently than once a year. And I tell people I really want to see my senior pets at minimum every 6 months. If your pet has a medical condition that's ongoing with medication and maybe has to have monitoring, then 6 months would probably be not frequent enough. So this is another thing to think about, and I hope that this information, that this chart and these calculations can help us shift our mindset to thinking about how quickly they age in those first 2 years, and then how it is variable depending upon what size they are, but that the old rule doesn't hold true, and this new information can be so helpful to you in making decisions about your pet's care. Myth: 1 year in a dog's life is equivalent to 7 human years. Myth busted. Thanks for joining us. I hope you will like and subscribe, share this video, leave a comment down below. We like to read those. And until next time, coming to you from Bluegrass Veterinary Hospital. Bye.